Community. And this is a session where we take some time to get to know some families in our community, some families who have really benefited from Ziglar wisdom and who really are wrestling with day-to-day challenges like all of us are and have had some success, some failures, and we're here to learn from them. And our guests today, I'm pleased to share with you, are Willie and Rachel Scott. So Willie and Rachel Scott, welcome to our Family Focus Spotlight.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
We're glad to be here.
Well, it was an interesting journey to get here, wasn't it, Willie? The irony is that, I live in Atlanta, you live east of Cleveland, Ohio, and we went to Nashville to meet. Right. And then we found out we were connected in ways that we didn't realize, because some of your kids go to a school that I helped start in Cleveland. So it's just been this very interesting relationship circle, kind of like a family, right? So it's been fun. So I want to hear more about you guys. Tell us about your story. And let me just preface this with, if someone's watching this right now and you have a blended family, you're going to want to stay tuned. If you're a single parent, you're going to want to stay tuned. And then if you are a parent or have a family at all, you're going to benefit from this as well, because they have a few kids, and so they've learned a few things along the way. So Willie, Rachel, how many kids do you have? Tell us, what's the family situation? What are we looking at here?
So we have a total of 7 children. Willie had 3, I had 2, and we had 2 together. So it is a large family.
Right.
But we love the big family that we have.
Well, you know what I love about it is that it's so relatable, like 3, 2, 2. You've had a little bit of every experience in this. So, all right. So tell us, give us a little bit of your story. First of all, how did you two, what was your stories? Maybe each take a turn kind of leading up to the coming together with this new marriage, and give us some backstory here.
Yeah. Well, a little bit of my backstory is, I didn't even realize that, honestly, I didn't realize that I was in a blended family when I was younger. Me and my wife talked about it, and I was like, man, I didn't know that's what it was called. I didn't realize that's what I was. But so I grew up in a single parent home. Mom was good, awesome mom, raised me. My dad was in the picture still too. Through that process, got older, just brought up in the right way, got older, got married and had 3 kids. Well, I had 2 kids with my first wife, but when me and her actually got together, she had a son already. He was 2 years old. So me coming into the picture, I started just pitching in, taking care of him from the beginning. And me and my wife my first wife got married in 2004, and she passed somewhere around in 2006. And that left me widowed with 3 children. I got custody of my oldest son. And then the 2 that we had together, I didn't get custody of them at that time. I just took ownership as I should. And from there, we just really struggled trying to raise these 3 beautiful kids, trying to figure out how to do it as a single dad and how to do hair and all that type of stuff. And me and my wife actually met through 2 of our best friends are married. And so I actually do a little bit of music as well. So I was there and I was writing a song and I was in the studio, and she happened to be there visiting. And then so my best friend asked her, would she come in and help me finish the song? So from there, she came in, helped me finish it was really a really prophetic song. We didn't know at the time, but she helped with the second verse and helped me finish the chorus. And then that's where we kind of met from there.
Wow. That's a romantic story. Now here I gotta ask.
We didn't
connect for about
2 years. Yeah.
So I gotta ask, was singing involved when Willie proposed, Rachel?
It was not involved.
All right.
I did get on one knee though.
Yes, it was a really nice proposal.
Okay. So Willie, I didn't even know about your first wife's passing. That just adds even more depth to the kind of experience. And we'll talk a little bit about the heart that you both have for helping families. And that's just, God has brought both of you through so much to be able to speak into families' lives. So Rachel, please tell me a little bit about your story.
So I was previously married, and grew up, just had a good life. My family was blended as well. And what's very interesting that I like to share, because there's so much behind this, is that My dad, he had 3 children and his first wife passed. My mom had 2 children and she divorced, and then they met. Hence the story that you just heard.
Right.
I was divorced as well, and I had 2 children. And so it was a very similar, almost reliving.
Sure.
Kind of, and I was the youngest of the 2 that my parents had together. And my husband and I had 2 children together. So I was previously married, military spouse, and things just didn't turn out the way that I had intended for them to.
Sure.
So I ended up getting divorced, and I was in Kansas, and I moved back to Ohio where my family was. And from there, Willie and I, we got married and blended our beautiful family together.
Right.
So talk about the ages of your kids. All these 7 kids. How old are they? Should I put Willie on the spot and make him rattle them off?
But you know what? I would say I do have the numbers down because
I'm better with the birthday.
Okay.
And I rattle the numbers down. So, but I'm gonna let you go ahead.
Okay, so we have 2. We have 2 for 8, 11, 16, 18, and 21.
Right.
Wow. You have every age covered.
Every age, yes.
Wow. I wish I could just plug in something and just suck all the wisdom that you have gained into a collective, but we're going to do our best to try to get into some of it. So talk a little bit, if you would, and follow up on your story here about maybe to those who wouldn't know, what are the challenges that you faced coming into this blended family situation? You know, clearly you were both on your own for a while, one coming from a divorce background, one coming from a death. I mean, this is tough stuff emotionally, and you're coming, what were the challenges that families face when they seek to come together that maybe most people wouldn't quite think about or wouldn't recognize, that kind of make the situation unique?
I would say that one of the greatest challenges would be creating your own story. So a lot of people come in with what people say blended families look like, or their own experience with their stepmom or stepdad. And so they come in already having biases to how this may look. And when they do that, it affects the whole atmosphere of the home, because then you're kind of parenting in response to a past parenting or in response to things that you've heard. So that's probably the greatest challenge we had coming in, was our own mindsets, our own cultural home setups that we grew up in, and trying to bring it into our home and build a home that we both could live in. But I wasn't raised in his home, and he wasn't raised in my home. Right. So we had to come up with what our home would look like.
Right.
That's a great point. And as Willie, I think you know, I mean, I love the whole topic of story. I found that a company around it. I wrote a book about it. So hearing you talk about this is just such a neat idea that people don't realize they're blending 2 stories to create a new one. And so what would you say were some of the keys to success for your new blended family, bringing those stories together? What were some of the things that you point to as saying, hey, these are the ones that really helped us as a family to come together?
I know one thing, just repeating what Molly said, part of it was dropping some of the thought process that we brought in. Because at one point we were bumping heads, whereas I'm like, well, my mom raised me this way and I turned out great. And she said, well, my dad raised me this way and I turned out great. So who's wrong? So we slowly but quickly figured out that neither one was wrong and neither one was right. We both had to literally start to process and create our own story, and not live off of the stories from what we were taught or how we were brought up or what we learned from them. And one of the other huge challenges that a lot of blended families face, and that we actually face too, was just really when it came to discipline. That one part of it, we talk about discipleship means discipline. And my wife was really good with this part. I wasn't as good with it, because my thought process was, if you do something wrong, there's a consequence. You didn't do what you're supposed to do, go to your room. but how does going into your room actually teach you what you did was wrong? How does it help to prevent that from reoccurring again or change the mindset of that? And it took a while for me to actually get that, because my thought in my mind, I'm just saying, hey, you're not listening, then that's being disrespectful. And we need to address the disrespect, but it really wasn't the disrespect. It really was what we need to address was the root issue at hand. So.
You know, before we get too far, as people are watching and so forth, I want to mention you two have a ministry to blended families called Better Than Blended. And so I want people to be familiar with that as we keep talking. I have a copy of the old version of your workbook here, Better Than Blended. I know you've got a new one that's coming out now. It may already be out, actually. But so just for people to know, if they want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that? I don't want to miss anybody and give them a chance to reach out.
Our website at blendedfamily.com, or our Facebook page is a really great way, and it's just Better Than Blended as well.
Okay, so betterthanblended.com and Better Than Blended Facebook, they'll find you, Willie and Rachel Scott. Okay, so as we talk about this discipline, man, what a topic that is. I mean, it's hard enough for families when you start from scratch, right? And you bring that together as you have your story that you were brought up and so forth. But man, you guys are blending different stories and different experiences to do with something like discipline. That was just one of the things I'm sure that you dealt with. Rachel, what were some of your biggest challenges in this blended family experience?
My greatest challenge was understanding my role. So coming in, because his first wife had passed, he wanted me to be mother, and that's understandable. But I realized that that's not necessarily what the children wanted from me. And so I was trying to fulfill this role, and I was experiencing a lot of rejection and a lot of pushback on that. And then I realized that that's not what I was supposed to be doing. I needed to find out what was my specific assignment in their lives and how I could fulfill why I was placed in their life. And it didn't always mean that I would get a title with it. It just meant that I was clear on what I was supposed to be doing at all times.
Right.
So that was definitely my challenge.
Right. Yeah, that was huge.
Yeah, I love that. So many of us, not just in marriage, but overall, try to fit into a box of, I think somebody wants this, therefore, and that may not be what they want at all. So that's awesome to hear you say that. So you've how long have you been married now? How long have you been on the shared journey?
We have been married on Sunday, 6 years.
I was about to say
6 years. Okay.
6 years.
Okay. So you've been, it's long enough that you've had your bumps and bruises and successes and saw your way through that and so forth. Let's talk about the connection with Ziglar and Ziglar family. How did you originally come to be connected with Ziglar family? It was probably through our meeting, if I'm not mistaken. Willie, I don't know.
It was.
Yeah, that kind of put on your radar there when we met up in Nashville. And then you guys participated in our Families That Win course, our online experience, right? Tell me about that experience, because you went through that and shared some of your experience about that I've heard in the past about how it was helpful to you. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that, of how that program has been helpful to your family.
Yeah.
I definitely love the program. I think that the key thing that we learned was really how we could be on the same page. We kind of talked about that earlier, creating your own family thing. And for us, the concepts that were talked about, it got us to sit down and think through processes that we weren't thinking about.
Yeah, a couple of them we actually brought the kids in, and there was some fun activities where you had to come up with like 10 different ideas for something. There was 100 different ideas. So we were like, okay, you come up with 10, you come up with 10, you come up with 10. And they were sitting.
Their responses were like, "Oh, that's what you think."
Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, that sounds like the dream sheet activity where you can really dream about where your family should be and all that. I agree. So many families say it just invites conversation around that. It gives them a framework to talk about their family with their family, right? To be intentional about that. One of the things that I think people wrestle with, and you can certainly speak to this, is how do you balance being intentional and pursuing goals which as a family, I know with your ministry and your life, you clearly have goals and dreams. How do you be intentional about that? And yet at the same time, with 7 kids, how do you stay flexible? Where that tension, that balance between those two, what kind of wisdom would you offer, drawn from your experience, right? What kind of wisdom would you offer families who are trying to juggle? Hey, we're trying to go in the right direction, do the things we want to do, and yet, wow, life happens. We got kids, and how would you speak into their lives?
We both go
right.
ahead.
Sure. Strengths and weaknesses. So one thing I think we do really well is we recognize each other's strengths and weaknesses, and we kind of know what areas each person is better in, so to speak. Yes. So when it comes to being intentional, I'm really big on that. And I'm really big on making sure that no matter how busy we get, we do that. Right. And when it comes to the actual activities that we can do, he's really good with that. Uh-huh. So we really balance each other out when it comes to just remaining intentional. One of the things we do is that helped us a lot, because we are busy, is we set a day, which technically isn't a day. It's like a part of the day. It's every Tuesday we have family day. And family day looks different all the time. Sometimes it's watching a movie. Other times we're playing a game. But we try to always stick to that. And that way, if our life gets busy, we don't get flustered and frustrated. And I personally don't feel like we didn't have any time with kids, because I think I beat myself up way more than he does. So when you say that, let's explore this idea a little bit. When you say family day, obviously, kids are in school. You guys are off doing whatever you need to do. Is it a whole day approach that the kids really know about? Is it mostly night? How does that play out on a practical level? It's in the evenings. So after home from school, they've done all their homework, but everything leads up to that moment. Right. So it kind of helps the day to run smoother, because they want to participate in family day. And then it's pretty much about maybe an hour and a half. We just call it family. Sure. Because there are some days in the summertime we're able to do something the whole day. Oh, sure. But we try to compartmentalize what were the things we want to make sure our children walk away with. And I think we have faith, fun, finances, and gifting. And so we pull from each of those things to kind of navigate what our kids are like. Okay, so I'm going to go a little deeper on that last one. You mentioned giftings, and I'm sure some parents' ears picked up. They want to know what tools do you use to help them figure out their giftings? What are the things that you have found that work to help your kids figure out how they're wired? What are their strengths? I think one thing that we actually have learned is we pay attention. Like, we personally watch our children. We see what they're drawn to. We see where they excel at. So one of our children, he excels in just about everything. So he plays basketball, football, soccer. The first time he played soccer, the coach actually came to us and said he ended up making MVP of the team the very first time he ever played soccer. They thought he played soccer. So, like, his gift in that is he's really good at a lot of stuff. Yeah, sure. And then some of our other children are really good at singing or just different things. So we've learned that we pay attention to what they are drawn to, what they're really good at, and then we try to cultivate the soil, if you would put it, to really promote that gift in them. Sure. And get them activities that help with that. Right. So for example, one of them really is in the singing. So we'll have an hour and a half where we pick different songs and we sing as loud as we can, and we let them maybe sing a solo. So we don't overthink it, but just so that they know this is your day and we're going to focus on what you enjoy doing. That's good. They look forward to family day, even though it's only an hour and a half. They look forward to it throughout the week. So they'll ask and say, hey, this week, or because we'll do one gifting, or whoever is gifting it is, we'll do that once a month, whatever, we'll rotate it. So they're like, oh, Willie's was this week, was this month. Is mine this week, or is mine coming up next? Well, I thought I was in line next. So they really look forward to whatever their gifting is. We try to find something in that area. So
That's really good. Okay, so we heard from Rachel. You very politely let her answer that other question first about lessons. Things that you've learned that have really been of great help to you as the family has come together. How would you speak to families that are in that blended situation? What's some of the real core wisdom that you think that you've learned that you thought, hey, if you get nothing else, you gotta get this kind of thing?
I would say one thing that I still working on too is, but come a long way from it, is communication. Really, us being on the same page with each other, but communicating, because communication is going to be key to everything. It's really going to be essential to every other piece when it comes to figuring out the discipline part of it. Like we have to be on the same page with that. When it comes to the different third parties that have input that influence the children's attitudes or their opinions or whatever, me and my wife have to be on the same page with that, and we have to communicate. And there's been times where our expectations of each other wasn't communicated properly. It caused us frustration. And so then we find ourselves in this place where we're not communicating well with each other until we actually sit down, where most of the time it's her coming, and she always lets me know that
Sure.
I got to be the one to come. So she'll come, and we'll end up having that conversation. And I think that's just key. I think communication is a huge factor in getting through a lot of the problems that you'll face in your marriage and your family.
That's so good. All right. Don't forget, I'm giving another plug for this, right? Betterthanblended.com, because you guys are so awesome. I want people to go and check out your site, betterthanblended.com. So let's talk about this question. I want to hear some of your greatest successes, right? So after 6 years, what are you most proud of as a family? What do you feel like are some of the wins that as a family you look back and say, because a lot of times families don't take time to celebrate. As in the Families That Win course, we cap it all off with one about celebration, the importance of celebrating wins, right? So what are some of the wins that you've experienced as a family that challenges you've overcome, and things that you can kind of point to and say, hey, there's hope for everyone else out there. We've had some success in these areas. What would those be?
I would say for me, just because growing up in a blended family, I missed out on a lot of those moments where everyone comes together and has holidays together and birthdays together and things like that. One of the wins for me is just the fact that our children want to come around. Right. And they come around for holidays. They come around for birthdays. They know that Christmas we do brunch, and they're here and they're looking forward to it. And it doesn't matter from the 21-year-old, of course, to the 2-year-old. They're here. So for me, one of the wins is just the unity that we strive for, and actually we're seeing the fruit of it.
Yes. Yeah, that is a blessing.
I would piggyback off that one and say pretty much the same thing. Mine, I was going to say relationship. Like, as far as just seeing, one thing for me is, and my wife can attest this, is that at one point when it came to my older children, the children before the marriage, for me and her got married, was I would see little things with the children me and my wife had together and the younger children, and I was like, I don't remember that with the older children, because I was working so much. I was present, but I was still absent in a sense.
Yes.
And so what that did is I found myself pulling back on the things I would do with the younger children, because I'm like, I didn't get to do that with them, or I don't remember this with them. And so at some point, me and my wife talked, and really just got to a place where she just spoke to me and said, hey, it's not too late to do things with them. So you do that. You still can spend time with them. You still can build with them. Don't miss out on that. But don't miss out on what you have now. So you're not in this place with the younger kids years later in the same place. So once I grasped that, and so that was a huge win for me, was being able to move past that regret that I had. Sure. Actually spend time with them now and build relationship with them now, but then also not miss out on what my younger kids were.
Sure. Yeah, that's really good. I think about that. Regret can really be an impetus. And when you experience regret, that's really a signal that you actually care about something, right? And so it represents an opportunity to lean in to that and take advantage of that time that you do have. So that's a terrific principle. Look, before I ask about your challenges that you face now, I want to point out that because I know a little bit about you, I know your faith is central to all this. So how has your faith affected this past 6 years and this coming together and this blending and so forth? What role has that played in the unity and the relationships that you've experienced?
Huge.
Yes.
Okay.
Without our faith, we would not be at the place that we are, because we're constantly going and we're praying and we're seeking God and we're asking for wisdom, because we don't honestly have the answers or know, because most of our history would speak to something that failed or something that didn't go the way it did. But because we're seeking God, we're able to get the bigger picture of it all and get wisdom that maybe our parents didn't have access to at the time for our experiences to be a little bit different. So it's definitely huge in how we progress.
Yeah. Zig used to talk a lot about how the focus on spiritual leads us to a place of humility, right? Regardless of the details of your beliefs, you can't be arrogant and proud for long when you realize you're not in charge of the universe, right? I didn't want to cut you off, Willie, in terms of what you might want to say on that topic.
Oh, no. She touched everything as far as that. I believe that just our faith is, and when I say huge, is because everything that we experience, I know it comes from God. As far as just the knowledge that we get, even just the experiences that we get to go through with our children. Like at one point we would get frustrated, like, man, what is going on? What is going on? Over a course of time, God has shown us that when we keep coming up against opposition, in some cases, we need to pause. So where before we would bump our head 10 times, like now we may bump our head once or twice, and we'll look and be like, okay, there's something to this. There's something behind this. This is a little bigger than it's not just a coincidence or anything like that. Like you need to pay attention to why this is occurring, what we should learn out of this, and how we can take the beautiful challenges that we face and actually turn them into something else. Actually turn them into something for somebody else, some seeds that we can sow to somebody else.
Boy, that's a great point, that your faith kind of causes you to look for the why, right? And even though you don't always understand why, you trust that there's a purpose behind these things. All right, so let's get real now as we bring this in for a landing. Let's get real. Let's talk about the challenges you're facing right now, right? Like what are the struggles you're facing with right now in the family as you're like, man, this is something we've just been wrestling with and we're still wrestling with it, just to be honest, right? What is one of those challenges, and kind of how are you going about it right now and trying to address it right now on your journey?
I think I'm gonna jump in on this. I'm sorry. I think one of the challenges, and I don't know if she might say something different. One of the challenges that I know that we're facing right now is how to do, which is affecting our family to a certain extent, is how to do business with your spouse. Like that's one thing we like she can smile at that one. Like that's one thing that we because
finding the balance.
Yeah, I recently left my full-time job last year to go full-time with our ministry, with our organization.
Right.
And so my wife is a teacher. So the summertime came and I'm thinking, okay, the summertime's here. This is my mind. Summertime's here. She's going to be off. She'll have the kids. I can get some work done that I need to get done. Because when I left, my son was on my 2-year-old, so I had him at home. So, but when the summertime came in her mind, she was like, oh, summertime, I've never been able to spend summertime with my husband. So, because he's always working during the summer, and I'm off. So now we've been summers together. So we both had two different thought processes. And while I'm trying to go get stuff done, I'm getting frustrated because she is thinking something different. So that was a challenge for us that we're working through, and we worked through that portion of it. Small part.
Right. And she's part of obviously your ministry efforts too, right? So that's a great point as more and more parents are working from home in this, entrepreneurial economy we have. And it really does present, when one or both went off to work every day, it at least made you had very clear boundaries, right? You're home or you're not home, right? But now, I live in this as an entrepreneur and ministry all the time. I live in this every day. So this is real world stuff. Rachel, what about you? In your mind, what are some of the challenges that you're facing right now as a family, and how are you going about addressing them?
I would say for me, it's balancing co-parenting life. So just how to co-parent outside of the home and deal with some of the challenges that the children go through with a parent that's not present all the time. So for me, that's probably one of the greatest challenges, trying to navigate what that should look like, what to say to the kids, what not to, how to still help cultivate the relationship with the parent that isn't present all the time, so that bitterness doesn't grow in them or frustration or anything like that. I'm very cautious of, as much as possible, trying to cover their hearts, because I feel like once bitterness takes root, it's so hard to pull out. And so constantly being aware of those moments where maybe negative seeds are being dropped that we need to come in and counteract with truth and grace and love. So that's probably the greatest challenge right now.
So what's the most important advice you would give parents in that situation, that co-parenting situation, who are maybe are nodding their heads as they're listening to you? What's kind of the one thing that you like, hey, one thing I've learned is this, how I approach it, what I say? I mean, what's one piece of wisdom you could share with parents who are in that situation of whatever you do this or don't do this or that kind of thing?
I would say, most people say, don't say anything negative about the other parent. And I agree. I definitely agree with that. But I will also say that the children are going to start seeing some things. And as long as your answers are girded in truth, then anything that you say, you're able to speak truth to. You will find those moments of what to say and what not to say, because the whole goal for me, and I believe most parents, is that you don't want your child to become bitter because you just had to share some information. Right. If the information is going to plant a seed of bitterness, then don't share it. But the information will bring more awareness, and you can speak truth and kind of walk them through the process of how to heal from that, or how to not be frustrated because maybe they're not looking at it from this perspective. Then it's okay to address and say, yeah, that, maybe that shouldn't have been said that way, but maybe they were thinking this, to address the feeling, that feeling is a legitimate feeling, but let's look at it from some other angles, because the whole no bitterness. That's the big trick. Right.
Yeah. So one of the things I'm hearing you say is don't pretend like everything's just fine no matter what happens, right? Because the kids know
what people believe.
Yeah.
That they need to know the truth. But you, as parents, we know what to tell and what is absolutely not necessary in the place that we're speaking from.
Right.
Yeah. So once again, we're back to why, right? Why are you sharing what you're sharing? And that's really good. So let me ask you this question. What's next for the Scott family? What are the goals the dreams that are coming up for you? I mean, what are you working toward right now as kind of the next stage of your family growth?
I think what's next is just that we continue to grow closer together and we begin to really understand each other. I think that the children are at a point, especially our 8 and 11 and 16-year-old, where they're kind of bumping heads a lot more. Yeah. But our thing is that the blessing of being a blended family is that you get to learn how to deal with people, so many different personalities. So that's a huge blessing. We have a large family, which means when you get out in the real world, someone told us this before, there's not going to be that many personalities you haven't encountered. Right. So you kind of have to know how to deal with these people here, so that when you get in the real world, you can. So we're really just trying to cultivate and prepare them for when they get out in the world, how to know who they are, understand the roles and the things that structure them and who they want to become, and stick to that no matter where they go.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to say, is that we really want to still, I let my son, all of them know that they are leaders. Like, you're in a family line of leaders, leadership, of move. I don't know how we say, we make things happen, in a sense, to say that, hey, certain things you can't do. One conversation I recently had with my son was, you are a leader in this school. Even though you're new to the school, you're still a leader. You have to set a standard of where you want to go and what you want to do and what you will allow. And if you don't set a standard, then you're going to follow a standard. So you have to be the one to be innovative. And sometimes leadership could be a lonely road. And that's the thing. I think right now we're teaching our children and trying to get them to understand that leadership can be lonely in some cases, but you still got to do it. And in some cases, it won't be lonely. Some cases you may have people
Sure.
that'll be in walking that season of life with you. But there's a lot of cases where you may not have anybody. But we're always here as a family. And my wife always tells them, we love you, but the world doesn't. So we want to show you what's right, what's righteous, and what how they should walk and what they should do, basically.
That is so good. Willie and Rachel, we're so privileged to have you be part of the Thrive community, and just so privileged to know you. I mean, we've thoroughly enjoyed the partnership and look forward to how many ways it's going to continue to thrive. One final reminder, if you're watching this still, betterthanblended.com, go there right now. Before the video ends, you have just a few seconds and you'll get the satisfaction of knowing you made it while they're still on here. But my reason I want to send people there is because you have already talked about a lot of more of these issues in depth. Right. And you have a lot more to go to there. So if people have been intrigued by what they're hearing from you, I mean, one, you're just a family, right? Making along in your journey. But at the same time, you've already done more to help. And so I would encourage families to go there and check it out, get to know you more. Sign up for your email list, do all that fun stuff, because you're the kind of family that's such an encouragement along this journey.